Welcome back, everyone. It's The Drive, live every Tuesday here on HN Network. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, The Drive is about all things motivational. People, places, ideas that move us forward. It's how we fuel our mind, body, spirit that ultimately creates the lifestyle we live. And every week we bring you something to think about, hopefully something you can try, maybe create a little awareness. And I start these shows off with what we call a mindful minute from Denise. And so here it is. Last week was the National Random Acts of Kindness Week. So random acts of kindness are said to lower your blood pressure, help your immune. We're flashing random acts of kindness. You can change the world one random act at a time. So what's that mean? Maybe giving someone else your seat, maybe putting money in that expired meter, maybe just simply opening the door or doing the universal language, a nice smile. These things have incredible health benefits, and I encourage you to go beyond random acts of kindness that just happens every February, but put a little bit of it every day in your everyday lifestyle. That being said, I don't know, for those of you that are in Fairfield County, school got called out because of the crazy weather that we're about to have. And so it's a wonderful time to talk about the crazy weather and allergies versus colds, and I've heard so much from all of my friends, like, what's going on with the weather, and is this causing my postnasal drip? Is it a cold? Is it an allergy? Couldn't think of a better guest to have on than Dr. Robert Weiss of CT/ENT, Sinus and Allergy out of Norwalk. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
And before we started, we learned that we all had many kindred connections, and we're going to get into that second half.
It's a little scary.
It's funny how those chance coincidences happen. So tell us, you're here today not only to talk about the difference between colds and allergies, which is a real prevalent topic in February, but you've also done some interesting service work that I also want to touch base on.
Sure.
So tell me about your organization, how it started, and tell us how you started.
Sure.
You've got a really interesting background.
Well, I'll start with our practice. I mean, we're at the iPark in Norwalk, very close to LA Fitness and motor vehicles, so a lot of folks are familiar with that. We've been there about coming up on 6 years now.
Wow, great.
We started from a new construction there, so we've got to kind of build it the way we wanted to in terms of all the little features that we like and what our patients have expressed in what they would want in an office. And we think we have a pretty inviting, comfortable space for people to come to. Prior to that, I was almost nearly 10 years in the south side of Norwalk, closer to 95. But prior to that, I did all my training in New York, part of the Long Island Jewish Medical Center. Went to medical school in Pennsylvania at Penn State. I spent almost 3.5 years in the military after my residency. I was stationed down in Louisiana doing ear, nose, and throat work. But it was a great experience. It was one of those things where I had a commitment. I did a scholarship, and I got to experience the military. I don't know if I would have gone that path any other way, but it gave me such a respect for our men and women in uniform. And it sounds cliche, but it really isn't when you see what they do close up and personal.
We've just had a long engagement with the VA out of New Haven for my father-in-law, so I have the utmost respect for the VA doctors and the way they've cared for our military men. Regardless of what you hear in the press, friends, the VA in New Haven is just incredible. So thank you for that service.
Sure.
So let's talk about some of the myths, because I have a ton of questions myself, having grown up with allergies and asthma and sinus. Let's get right into it. Is it colds? Is it allergies? What is it?
Well, it depends what you're talking about, when you're talking about it. I mean, we're in February, last I checked.
But you could have had your flip-flops on yesterday.
Yeah, see, that's part of the problem. I mean, this weather pattern's been very, very changeable. We've got 60-degree days, and now we're supposed to be getting a major snowstorm, I guess. Schools are closing. So that can wreak havoc on people's immune systems, just the sheer change in weather patterns, temperatures. We're sort of in that, what we call a transitional stage. We're sort of at the end of respiratory season, and we're sort of getting ready to embark on allergy season.
Okay, what is respiratory season? Is that
that's your
Thanksgiving
cold and flu.
to?
Yeah, that's your that's your October through, April respiratory season. Typically when flu is around, but all the other viruses and it has to do with the fact that we're indoors. We're in close quarters. We're breathing, unfortunately, other people's air. We're not outside as much, so a lot of the respiratory stuff can hit us then. But we are also exposed to indoor allergens, which is where I think some of the myth comes in, that people think, well, I can't have allergies, it's wintertime.
Right.
And really, that's not true, because if you're allergic to anything that's indoors, you can have winter allergies.
So I did do some research, and I saw that you were talking about things like the dust bunnies and the weird mold, and
Right.
those are all the things I had allergies to as a child.
Right.
And Ava, our daughter, was born with a little bit of the dust bunny allergy as well. So what's the common ground? Give us a list of what people could be maybe allergic to that they don't know about.
Right. The big three, you've mentioned two of them, dust, mold, and then you've got your pets.
Yeah.
So, there's lots of things we could talk about to dust-proof your house. For example, the biggest place, if you had to pick one room to get rid of dust and dust mites, would be your bedroom.
Yeah.
So you want to get the carpeting out of there. You want to get, unfortunately for the kids, you want to try to minimize their stuffed animal collection, or at
It's
least
horrible.
keep it off out of the bedroom. You want to try not to have a lot of drapes and curtains, anything that can collect dust. Okay. The next step is you want to take care of your bedding. So you want to use the dust-proof covering on the mattresses, the pillows.
My mother will know this. I grew up very young, and back in those days, not to age myself, it was that hard, crunchy plastic. Now the technology's gotten so much better.
Much better.
Yeah.
You really can't tell the difference between regular covering. It's really has to do with the weave.
Yeah.
So Bed Bath & Beyond, not to plug them, but any store that has that kind of thing, you can get those materials. The key, though, is once you've covered your bedding, is you've got to wash the sheets, the pillowcases, anything that you can wash.
How often?
In hot water, once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the dust mites are going to continue to populate.
Yes.
You've got to get rid of them with
So
hot water.
let's demystify that. Does it mean your house is dirty if you have dust mites, or does everyone have dust mites?
Everybody's
Where do they
got
come
dust
from?
mites.
You have dust mites?
Everybody does.
Everybody has
Yeah.
it. So we're not
So
dirty. It's
they
just
unfortunately they feed. This gets a little gross, but they do feed off of the skin that we shed that ends up in our bedding, and that's a buffet for them. So hot water once a week. Also, humidity is a big thing.
I know this is freaking some of my friends out, but you're not dirty, guys.
Yep. So you want to keep the humidity down. You can use a dehumidifier if you have damp places in your house, which is also going to help your mold problem too. The next area we focus in on, and this is why we spend a lot of time talking to patients. We need the history. I mean, we can do allergy testing, we can do CAT scans, we can do all these fancy diagnostic things. 90% of what we learn about a patient comes out of their history. And if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right history. So, for example, you can ask a patient, do you have any pets? And they'll say, no. Okay, well, I guess there's no way you can have a pet allergy. Well, that's not true. Cat dander tends to stick to everything. So if you ask the question, are you exposed to any animals outside of your home? They may say, oh yeah, my brother-in-law's got a cat, and I'm there once a week for dinner. Okay, well there's your cat allergy. That's enough exposure, and it can actually stick to their clothing. They could bring it home. Your children can be then exposed to the cat dander via another home. So very important to ask questions. What do people do? What are their hobbies? We had one lady tell us that she has alpaca in her yard.
Thankfully not in her house.
Right. But again, we do live in Fairfield County, so we have to ask about different kinds of pets. So again, we don't necessarily have a test for alpaca, but if we had a few patients that had that, we could potentially get that.
So what about the client that comes in that has had the long-lasting cold that could be potentially allergy, but you kind of rule that out?
Right.
Is this I've noticed in our own family, in our our clientele that some of these respiratory things have been trailing for 2 and 3 weeks.
Right.
And is that a weather-related thing? Like, it seems like the colds are hanging on longer now than ever before.
Right. Well, now you're sort of getting into another question. When does a cold become a sinus infection?
Yeah.
Is it cold versus allergy? And you're not alone. I mean, we wrestle with this all the time too, because nobody walks in with a sign on their head saying, I have a cold, or I have an allergy, I have sinusitis. So it does get, I'll say, tricky to sometimes figure that out. And a lot of the symptoms can overlap. So a cold can mimic an allergy, can mimic a sinus infection. So it's not always so easy to figure it out. I'll give you some general rules of thumb, though. A cold is going to last, on average, 5 to 7 days. So if you have cold symptoms, which can include nasal congestion, maybe a little headache, maybe a low-grade fever, maybe a sore throat, and it's starting to get better after 3 or 4 days, and maybe on the 5th day you're not better, but you're better than you were at its worst, you'd probably have a viral illness, which it'd be wrong to give you an antibiotic.
Why?
Why? Because antibiotics, first of all, they don't treat viruses. So antibiotics, the common antibiotics that people go to
Z-Pak.
get, Z-Pak, any penicillin, amoxicillin-derived antibiotic, those are designed for bacterial infections. Viral illnesses do not respond.
What's the difference? I mean, I should probably know this by now with a child, but I'm always perplexed.
Between a virus and a bacteria? Well, viruses are, bacteria are sort of a celled organism, and antibiotics will usually attack the cell to destroy them. Viruses are much smaller, different kind of literally animal than a bacteria. They don't respond to antibiotics. There are antiviral drugs out there, but for the common viruses, the common cold, we generally don't use antibiotics for that. And in fact, if we inappropriately give an antibiotic to someone that doesn't need it, then we run the risk of having a complication from the antibiotic for something that never would have helped the patient.
Right,
So.
there's that whole school of thought, don't overuse antibiotics and what it can create long term.
Yeah, we can create drug resistance, we can create GI side effects, stomach upset, diarrhea. We tell all our patients to use a probiotic supplement along with their antibiotics when we do have to give them an antibiotic.
Well, this is raising so many questions in my mind, as I'm sure with the viewers. We've been signaled to take a quick break, so we're going to come right back and continue on with sinus, allergies, colds, and maybe what we can do to prevent them or make ourselves aware of what we have.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back, Dr. Weiss. Thank you so much. Okay, back in 2, guys. Denise with The Drive every Tuesday. Hope you get on Twitter and share it. Thanks so much.
Darien Sport Shop is a unique store because it's a family store. A busy mom can come in with kids in tow and find everything she needs for them, and even find a dress for herself for Saturday night. And if she's in a rush, she can simply go home and order it from us that night. We'll deliver it the next day. The Darien Sport Shop. We're pretty on the outside and amazing on the inside. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut. Or shop us online at dariensport.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark Building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
It's the new year. The to-do list is long and it's easy to feel pulled in many directions at once. Your professional personal shoppers at Walter Stewart's are ready to check groceries off your list by shopping for you. Save extra time this year and spend it doing more important things. Great food and wine delivered to your home with the same-day service. Shop Stewart's online at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN network.
Welcome back, guys. It's Denise DiGrigoli every Tuesday live here at The Drive on HAN network. The show serves to bring on people, ideas, and organizations that move us forward. And we're talking to Dr. Weiss of CT, Sinus and Allergy. Very interesting, the difference between colds and allergies. And we were taking a little station break, and we've got this great little sign. And Doctor was just explaining to me that there's really, tell me about why there's no, what's the reason of the air passages known as our sinuses that are vacant voids in our respiratory system?
So you can see on the diagram there's the upper sinuses in purple. We call those the frontal sinuses.
Kind of cool.
There's some orange areas there below the eyes and the cheeks. Those are what we call the maxillary sinuses or the cheek sinuses.
Those make your teeth hurt when they're...
So if you get a sinusitis and your upper teeth are hurting, you can almost diagnose yourself. Especially if it's on one side or the other. You could tell without a CAT scan where your infection is. So these are air spaces that are within the bones of our skull. Exactly why we were made that way, that's up for debate. But be that as it may, there's...
I love those weird kind of debates.
That's it. I mean, you can get 5 opinions on why we have them.
Okay, I need one opinion. So my grandmother used to say, you could neti pot and get this to settle down. Is that true?
You can to a degree.
To a degree.
Generally, unless you've had sinus surgery before and you don't have any big openings into the sinuses, the neti pot is really good at flushing out the nose. So for allergies, for colds, the neti pot or any other form of saline irrigation or saline lavage is great.
Okay.
And we recommend that to everybody.
Lavage sounds better than
lavage
neti
is
pot.
much better.
Yeah, lavage is good.
Yeah. So, because what you're doing is you're washing out particles, you're washing out allergy particles, dust, you're actually washing out viruses and bacteria.
Should you do it every day just as a
You
maintenance?
should do it every day.
Like brushing your teeth?
That's
lavage.
You floss, you brush your teeth, you lavage.
Wow.
Yep.
The routine just got better.
That goes for almost every patient that has
Even
any
my
kind of nasal.
13-year-old?
Even your 13-year-old, if you can get them to do it.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the trick.
That's the trick. But
Okay.
beyond that, it's hard to actually flush out your sinuses because they're pretty closed off from the rest of the world. And in some people, they're more closed off than others. So if they have to drain through a little tiny, literally like a little funnel, if that funnel is narrowed, and let's say you have a narrowed sinus and you have allergies, you get spring pollen allergy, it causes congestion. The congestion also affects that little funnel. So now that funnel just closes off because it got congested. When the funnel closes off, the fluid, everything backs up into the sinus, you can get a sinus infection, you get a headache.
Yeah. So interesting. My daughter was doing a report on the Dust Bowl, in social science, and she was like, Mom, they use the same technique you do, putting Vicks in your nose before you travel. This is a really crazy tidbit I just gave you about myself. Is that true? Does that help these airplane airs when you put the Vicks in your nose from getting all the germs that are flying around in the airplane?
Well, I'm assuming you're using Vicks as a decongestant to open your nose up a bit if you're congested.
I'm using it to stop any weird stuff from getting up into my nose.
Well, I guess there's different forms of Vicks out there and different formulations, I should say. We get a little concerned when people are using a decongestant, a nasal decongestant. So Vicks is one particular one.
Don't use it?
Well, you have to use it with caution. So Afrin is another one, neosynephrine. Anything that says nasal decongestant, if it's a spray,
Yeah.
if you read the fine print, it'll tell you do not use more than 2 or 3 days in a row. Because it may feel great, it may open your nose up, which is fine for the first day or two if you have a cold or the start of an allergy, or if you're going to be flying and you don't want to get all congested on the flight, particularly on the descent. It's fine to use that type of medicine. It's over the counter. We see people that get into trouble with it, though, in the sense that they keep using it. So we get folks that come in, I've been on this Vicks spray for a month every day. It worked great for the first week. Now I'm really stuffy. And what they've experienced is something called rebound congestion. So after 3 or 4 days, that Vicks will start to work against you and actually make your nose more congested than when you started. So we actually have to break people away from their Vicks.
So you've got a plethora of experience, and of course, people in Fairfield County and your military experience, but you recently, not too long ago, visited a tribe in
Ethiopia.
In Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So tell me, are there sort of standards of issues that run among the human population, or is it demographically related, or is it social economically related? Like, tell us what you see there versus what you've seen here. Some commonalities and some disparities.
So, we didn't go this year because of a change in the government status over there. We weren't really invited back, but we'd gone 4 years in a row.
Wow. Thank
so
you.
we'd go around this time each year, spend about 10 to 12 days there in this one particular region in the south of Ethiopia with this one particular tribe, the Konso tribe. And I'd say it's amazing how many similarities there are medically, and then obviously the major differences. So these, just to paint the picture, this is a very remote region. Most of the people that live there have very little in the way of any type of possession. They tend to live in thatched huts that are kind of strewn throughout. There are villages where people do congregate, but a lot of people just live right out on the land.
Wow.
They'll walk a mile or two sometimes to get water every day from a water hole or an actual well. They farm. There's goats and cattle and cows everywhere, sheep. So they really, really rely on an agriculturally based society to live. And they all get along. It's really it's some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And they suffer from a lot of the things we suffer from: allergies, pneumonia, sometimes diabetes. So a lot of the illnesses that we're very familiar with are there. And the difference is they can't go to the CVS and buy Flonase. They can't go buy Sudafed. So even a simple eye infection that if you or I had a conjunctivitis or a pink eye, one or two drops from a bottle of antibiotic eye drops would cure it. They may suffer with that for months, and it can turn chronic. I mean, we saw a lot of blindness there just from sort of preventable type stuff. Dental issues, they get a cavity, they get a tooth problem, it can go into an abscess and really be terrible. There's no dentist available for them. So when we would go, we'd get donations of antibiotics, we'd get donations of medical supplies. We'd work with a local clinic there that, yes, there's a clinic available, but you need cash to get into that clinic. It may be $2 or $3 for us, right? They don't even have $2 or $3. So there's a barrier to their access to healthcare there. So when we would open up our clinic, we didn't even literally we didn't advertise. In fact, we tried to keep it quiet because the word would get out anyway. We would have 300 or 400 people lined up every day.
I don't know if you guys flashed that
Yeah.
photo of the doctor on site, but that was incredible.
I had to turn people away, unfortunately, because we could only be there for so long.
So what made you decide to do that? Like, what is in your composition to search that out and find it? I mean, you're kind of putting yourself at risk as well.
Well, I can't say we were ever at risk, but...
For different germs.
Well, yeah. I mean, and last year we were a little concerned about Ebola, even though it wasn't in that region.
Right.
I can't tell you, it's not just one thing that it's a matter of, I guess, what your antenna are picking up out in the world, and what opportunities come your way. I just happen to work very closely with the founder of our organization. He worked in the operating room with me.
What was the organization?
Oh, so it's Ethiopia's Daughters.
Oh, Ethiopia's Daughters. Okay.
And
great.
Jerry Nichols is the founder of the organization. He'd been going to Ethiopia for years prior to this as a bird watcher.
Oh.
So, and he would actually lead expeditions out there. And he recognized the need to bring a medical team back. And he asked me, what do I think? And that's how it got started. And each year we brought more and more people
When you say
back.
we, who traveled with you?
So the first year we went, it was just Jerry, myself, and 2 other nurses. And then it grew to several doctors each time, more nurses. At one point, we had a group of about 9 people going and some of them weren't even medical, but we need support teams when we go there too. So we need people.
Where do you stay?
We actually,
in the huts?
No, you could if you wanted to. There, believe it or not, this is sort of a destination for a lot of the European tourists, because you're right at the gateway to sort of the really remote tribes, the stuff you'd see on National Geographic. So there's a lot of tourism down there.
Okay.
So there's some pretty nice hotels and resorts that you can stay in, or you could stay in sort of modest settings too.
So do you need, is there an organization that funds your trip? Is that Ethiopia, or are you paying for that yourself?
Well, so we pay for all of our own travel.
Wow.
Yeah, we raise money for the organization to be able to be quite honest, when we go there, a big part of what we do is triage, because literally people will come across our clinic with diseases and illnesses or injuries that we can't fix on site. We're not there doing surgery. We're basically there as a primary care function. But there's a regional hospital. It's about 10 or 12 hours bus drive away.
Wow.
So we almost every year we put at least 5 or 6 people on a bus or a taxi. We give them cash to be able to pay for the medical expenses. To get to this regional hospital to get the treatment they need. So a lot of our fundraising is just to be able to do that kind of thing when we go. We work very closely with the tribal elders, and there's also a king.
Really?
Yeah, he's a real king, King Gezahane, and they oversee the money. So we know that the money is going for our intended purpose.
Well, so do we want to give a website to our listeners in case anyone wants to fund your motivation? Because certainly you need some rocket fuel for that.
Unfortunately, right now, because our whole mission got changed with the change in the government, we took down our website and we stopped our fundraising. But we have to regroup and figure out if we can go back to this particular spot or hit another one if we can.
So we're getting called to a break, but do we want to talk about what this thing is? Does this belong to the tribe?
So yeah, this is from this part of the world, the southern part of Ethiopia. So again, they're agriculturally based. They spend a lot of time out in the fields, and usually the men do this, and they're tending to their cows or their sheep, and they're out there for hours. So this is actually a small stool that they all carry, so that when they're tired, they can just sit on it. And sometimes they spend overnight, and they actually use this as a pillow.
Wow.
So it's sort of dual purpose.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back in a couple of minutes, guys, to hear more about what fuels Dr. Weiss's motivation and some new things about what's going on at ENT, Connecticut, Sinus
And allergy.
and allergy. Right back, 2 minutes, thanks.
Denali is your outdoor retail destination in the Westfield Trumbull Mall. For the last 21 years, we have carefully selected clothing, footwear, and gear from a variety of the best outdoor brands, such as the North Face, Patagonia, Vineyard Vines, UGG, Merrell, GoPro, New Balance, and many more. Our stores have a friendly, knowledgeable staff to help you with all of your running, hiking, and cold weather needs, and in discovering all things outdoorsy and awesome. Visit us in the Westfield Trumbull Mall or online at denalioutdoor.com.
Find over 1,000 special stories at Hospital for Special Surgery. Go to hss.edu/backinthegame.
I was jogging 5 months after my cartilage tear.
Skiing a year after hip surgery.
And playing grandma 4 weeks after hip replacement.
One special hospital, 1,000 special stories. See Connecticut patients at hss.edu/CT.
Tired of all the bull? Relax and enjoy the experience of buying a car at Pamby Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram. No bull allowed.
For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning. Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000. The HAN Network is the leader in local broadcasting in Fairfield and Westchester counties. We reach tens of thousands of viewers via our live news, sports, and entertainment broadcasting. We can create your advertisement and broadcast it through our programming to one of the most affluent markets in the United States. And remember, our broadcasting is live, which means viewers cannot skip or click past your marketing message. And we measure our audience and their demographics on every broadcast. To advertise on the HAN Network, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
We're back with Dr. Robert, why can't I say Robert today? Robert Weiss of CT/ENT, Sinus and Allergy. This has been an incredibly informative, well, we're almost through the hour. Tell me, somebody like you that's so incredibly busy, having such a breadth of experience, what motivates you? Because you've got a team of what, 16 people?
Yeah.
And we were talking on the break that your business is in an expansion. You're doing some procedures that used to be in the hospital, now in-house. I mean, this is a huge amount of energy.
Right.
So tell me what motivates you. What do you do to stay sane? You look pretty sane, but you know what I mean.
Thanks. Well, motivation, every day, you know, I get up and it's a new day. And every day is different in the office. I mean, I never know what I'm exactly going to see. But we, as a team and personally, just like making that difference in someone's life. And in a way, I feel like I've been given this gift that I can do a relatively small thing for me, because I've got the years of experience and the knowledge, and you know, I've gotten to this place in my life where it's relatively easy for me to do something that can have a huge impact in someone else's life. And that's always very motivating, because it almost feels too easy, right? I've got this thing that I can just, well, I've got this perfect remedy for you. I know exactly what's wrong. I can help you.
Would you say it's almost intuitive to some degree, not foregoing your medical training?
I think part of it has to be intuitive, because you have to be, you've got to sort of want to fulfill that role. But I can't discount, I look back at where I started 20 years ago, when I first started doing this, and how hard it was to think, okay, am I making the right choice? Am I doing the right surgery? Am I doing the right medication, the right prescription? And it's just so much easier now than it was then, and that just comes with, you know, your 10,000 hours, or you want to, however you want.
Your mad hours, as we call them,
but just to be able to be able to offer that to people is really exciting. And that's what we try to inspire in our team. We have a very collaborative group.
And how'd you create that?
It started with literally just myself and a few employees, and then we just grew from there. We now have we collaborate, have a very good collaborative relationship with 2 nurse practitioners in the office. So the MD nurse practitioner collaborative model works fantastically for this type of practice. Since we introduced allergy into the practice, that brought a whole sort of different aspect to what we're doing. There's a theory called the unified airway theory. So we, as humans, as intellectual humans, we sort of separate out, okay, the sinuses are here, the lungs are here, the nose is here, and we have a different doctor for the lungs and a different doctor for the sinus and one for the allergy and another doctor for something else. But really it's one system. It's a respiratory system, and it's all, if you chopped a little piece off of this and put it under a microscope and chopped a little piece out of your lung and put it under a microscope, it'd be tough to tell the difference.
Really?
So all the things that affect your sinuses, like inflammation and viruses and allergies, affect your lungs and affect your nose. It's all connected. So we try to look at our patients from more of this unified airway. What can we do to help not only their sinus problem, but guess what? When you fix their allergies, you fix their sinus problems. You also fix their asthma. I'm not an asthma doctor, but what we do helps their asthma. So we try to look at it more from a holistic standpoint. We think about patients that way. So that's what, if you ask about motivation, learning all these new things, incorporating new things into the practice keeps it fresh, keeps it from getting boring.
You couldn't be a better guest for the drive, because that's exactly it. It serves to illuminate and educate people and inspire them. And I'm certainly inspired to actually come to the practice, because I've had a litany of allergies for a long time that we're not quite sure what's going on.
Right.
But beyond that, what do you do personally? Do you exercise? Do you eat a certain way?
So yeah, I've always felt, and I probably didn't do this until I was in my early 30s, but I'm glad that I discovered it. You've got to have a balance. You can't just think about work all the time. You can't just do work all the time. I'm an avid road cyclist. Some people think I'm a little nuts when it comes to that, but I get out there on the bike. You just forget about everything. You kind of zone into what you're doing at the moment. You're literally in the moment sometimes, depending on what you're doing.
Road cycling makes you, it's almost like yoga for the mind for me.
Yeah.
So I know we talked during the break that you enjoy Sherpa as well as everyone in my family does as well. And I want to just mention to everybody on air that you've invented a product for cycling. So not only are you a motivated doctor and service to everyone in the world, you've had some little extra time to come up with something. What is it?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be able to take 2 worlds and put them together. So my medical background and my interest in cycling. So a couple of years ago, we came up, when I say we, I have a partner in this, Frank Avagenet. We came up with an invention, a safety product really, to protect a rider if they fall. So one of the biggest things that happens to road cyclists if they fall down, obviously you can break a bone, and worse things can happen, but the most common injury is road rash.
Yes.
So when you go down...
I haven't experienced that myself this summer.
It's like, it's horrible. It's horrible. So the thing that I picked up on, putting my doctor hat on, was that if you look at everyone that gets road rash, they tend to get it in the same place, right? It's usually on the side of the arm, the side of the leg, the buttock, the knee. So it's a pretty common injury in the sense that it's consistent. It shows up in the same place. And so we came up with this concept of being able to provide a slider device that will, on impact with the pavement, will slide along the pavement instead of letting your skin actually abrade the pavement.
So is it in the clothing?
Yep, it's built into the clothing. So we're in the process now. This came out in 2011. Hopefully our patent is about to be finalized on that.
Congratulations.
So we're excited to be able to talk to some some industry people about incorporating this into their clothing line. So.
Well, I hope anybody that's listening, if you want to find Dr. Robert Weiss, the website is
ct-ent.com.
ENT.com, and some of our behind-the-scenes producers and directors actually have loved ones that go to the doctor in his practice, so we've got more than a wonderful testimonial today.
All right.
And is there anything that we want to leave the audience with that will move them forward if they've got a question, if they're stuck, if they need to maybe reshape the way they look at their unified airway?
Yeah, we're a very sort of approachable practice, and our website has a lot of information, but obviously if they have any further questions or concerns, come on in, make an appointment, and we're happy to sit down with them.
All right, well, there you have it. CT-ENT, Sinus and Allergy, out of Norwalk, Dr. Weiss. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Best of luck with the patent and your service work. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, guys, that's The Drive again. Every Tuesday, tune in live. You can also find us on the web at han.network for previous episodes. We're always looking for great people like the doctor and others that you've seen on this show. So if you'd like to be included, please email us at DeniseDiGrigoli.com, and we'll see you next week. Actually, we won't. Doctor, you're going to be on again next week as a replay. Okay. I am actually out of town on some business, but we'll be back March 8th with Martha Morris, and we'll be talking about entrepreneurial women that work. See you soon. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about